It often starts as a quiet hum, a low-grade static in the back of your mind that you can't quite turn off. But then it begins to speak in the subtle, unconscious language of the body. It's that unconscious clenching in your jaw while you're reading the morning news. It's the tightness that creeps into your shoulders and neck as you sit in traffic, as if you're bracing for an impact that never comes. It's that shallow, almost imperceptible breathing you don't even notice you're doing, your chest barely rising and falling. It's the feeling of a coiled spring, a knot of unease in the pit of your stomach after a difficult phone call or while watching the evening news. We call this constant feeling of being on alert, this state of being perpetually braced for the next thing, stress, and for many of us, navigating the rapids of this fast-paced, information-saturated modern world, we've come to accept this feeling as a normal, unavoidable part of life. We tell ourselves, that's just how things are, or I work best under pressure. But from my perspective as a physician, armed with decades of research into the mind-body connection, I am here to tell you today that this state is not normal. It is not the state your body was designed to live in. And this chronic, low-grade stress is one of the most significant, most corrosive, yet most profoundly controllable factors in how we age. It is the silent accelerator on the dashboard of our biology. Today, we learn how to take our foot off that accelerator. Welcome back to the lab. Today, we are going to build our third pillar of longevity, stress resilience. Now, let's be very clear about what resilience means. Resilience is not about building a fortress around yourself to create a life free from stress. That's not only impossible, it's undesirable. A life without any stress would be a life without love, which carries the risk of heartbreak. It would be a life without purpose, which brings meaningful challenges. It would be a life without growth, which requires us to step outside our comfort zone. Stress is an inevitable part of a life fully lived. No, resilience is something far more powerful and elegant. It is the ability to navigate the inevitable storms of life with grace and skill. It's the capacity to feel the winds of adversity without being uprooted. And, perhaps most importantly, it is the skill of returning to a calm harbor more quickly and efficiently after the storm has passed. It's about building a nervous system that is flexible, not fragile. To do this, we are going to put stress under the microscope, understanding it not as a personal failing or a weakness of character, but as a measurable, physical, biological process. We will meet the master stress hormone, cortisol, and learn how to transform it from a destructive, silent enemy that ages us prematurely into an occasional, helpful ally that can save our lives. Let's check in with our friend Susan. As we know from our previous sessions, she's made incredible progress. She's eating well, enjoying cooking again. Her sleep is slowly but surely improving. But she tells me, I just can't seem to turn my mind off. I find myself worrying about the kids, even though they're grown and have families of their own. I worry about the state of the world, things I have no control over. I feel this constant tension in my shoulders that I can't seem to shake. No matter how much I try to relax, Susan's feeling is the exact problem we are going to dissect and solve today. She has laid the solid foundation of nutrition for her house. Of health, she's building the walls with movement and sleep. But the entire structure being constantly rattled by the high winds of chronic stress. Her experience highlights a critical truth that is at the heart of our masterclass today. You cannot think your way out of a physiological stress response. Let me repeat that. You cannot think your way out of a physiological stress response. You can't just tell your body to calm down. That ancient part of your brain, your survival system, doesn't understand your modern language of logic and reason. You have to speak to your body in a language it understands. And that language is not words. It's breath, it's sensory awareness, it's a feeling of safety in your environment. In this masterclass, you will become fluent in that primal language. First, you will learn the critical life or death difference between healthy, life-saving acute stress and the harmful, corrosive chronic stress that silently wears us down. Second, you will understand how to consciously and manually activate Your body's built-in calming system, the parasympathetic nervous system, a powerful biological tool that most of us don't even know we have direct control over. And finally, I will personally guide you through a stress reduction toolkit of 3 powerful, simple, science-backed techniques, including a guided mindfulness meditation, an emergency calming breathing exercise, and the profound science of nature therapy. These are tools you can use anytime, anywhere to short-circuit the stress response and cultivate a deep sense of calm. This is not about just managing stress. This is about building a more resilient, more peaceful, and more balanced nervous system from the inside out. Let's begin. To manage stress effectively, we must first understand its primary agent in the body. And at the very center of the stress story is a powerful, complex, and deeply misunderstood hormone called cortisol. In popular culture, cortisol has become a villain. We hear about cortisol-blocking supplements and belly fat from cortisol, but the truth is more nuanced. Cortisol is not inherently good or bad. It is a tool released from your adrenal glands that is absolutely essential for life, and like any powerful tool, a hammer, a saw, a fire, its effect depends entirely on how and when it is used. In the right context, it builds and saves. In the wrong context, it destroys. Today, we're going to meet the 2 very different faces of cortisol, the life-saving hero, and the slow, silent poison, acute stress, the life-saving hero. Let's travel back in time 50,000 years ago to the African savannah. Imagine one of our ancestors, a woman named Mara, is out gathering edible roots. Suddenly, a twig snaps behind her. In a fraction of a second, before she can even consciously process the sound, her brain's ancient alarm bell, a small, almond-shaped region called the amygdala, screams danger. This signal triggers a lightning-fast chemical cascade down a pathway called the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. The amygdala signals the hypothalamus, the brain's command center. The hypothalamus signals the pituitary gland, the body's master gland, and the pituitary gland sends a message down to the adrenal glands, which sit on top of the kidneys, to release a flood of hormones. First comes a burst of adrenaline, giving her that immediate jolt of energy. Right behind it comes a powerful, targeted flood of cortisol. This is acute stress, and it is a masterpiece of survival engineering. The cortisol instantly takes command of her entire body's resources for one singular purpose: survival. It orders her liver to dump stored glucose into her bloodstream for immediate fuel for her muscles. It increases her heart rate and blood pressure, delivering that fuel and oxygen more rapidly. It sharpens her focus to a razor's edge, creating a kind of tunnel vision on the threat. Crucially, it dials down all non-essential, long-term projects. Digestion stops. This is no time to be processing lunch. The long-term building projects of the immune system are put on hold. No time to fight a minor infection when a major threat is present. Mars sees the source of the sound, a saber-toothed tiger lurking in the tall grass. She flees. She runs faster than she ever thought possible, her body a perfect symphony of survival, orchestrated by cortisol. She escapes, finding safety with her tribe. A few hours later, safe in her cave, surrounded by the warmth of her family and the fire, her brain sends the all-clear signal. The alarm system turns off, and her cortisol levels gracefully return to a calm, normal baseline. The hero has done its job and left the stage. This is how the system is supposed to work. Chronic stress, the slow, silent poison. Let's fast forward to today. The problem is this: our brilliant, ancient survival system, which was designed for intense, short-term, physical threats, has not evolved to keep up with the modern world. It is now being constantly triggered by chronic, long-term, psychological threats. Your brain's alarm system, that ancient amygdala, doesn't know the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and an unexpected bill in the mail, an argument with your spouse, a traffic jam, or the 24-hour news cycle. It just perceives a threat and keeps ringing the bell, softly, all day long. This is chronic stress. And that constant, low-grade drip, drip, Drip of cortisol into your system becomes a slow poison because the very same survival responses that saved Mara are now, in a chronic state, profoundly damaging to our health span. That brilliant dump of sugar into your bloodstream? When it happens every day from psychological stress, it contributes to chronically high blood sugar, insulin resistance, and an increased risk for type 2 diabetes, that intelligent shutdown of the immune system. When it's chronic, it leaves you vulnerable to more frequent colds and infections, and can even worsen autoimmune conditions, that life-saving increase in blood pressure. Chronically, it becomes hypertension, damaging the delicate lining of your arteries and increasing your risk for heart attack and stroke. That diversion of resources? Chronically, this means cortisol actively breaks down healthy tissue. It breaks down collagen in your skin, accelerating the formation of wrinkles. It breaks down muscle tissue to create more sugar, worsening the sarcopenia we discussed in our last masterclass. And in a particularly cruel twist, chronic cortisol signals your body to store calories as dangerous visceral fat deep in your abdomen, the very type of fat most linked to metabolic disease. It also disrupts your sleep architecture with that jarring 3 a.m. cortisol spike, which is what our friend Richard is experiencing. The antidote: learning to press the brake. If our foot is perpetually stuck on the gas pedal of stress, how do we learn to apply the brake? This brings us to a part of your nervous system that works automatically, called the autonomic nervous system. It has two main branches that act like a seesaw. The sympathetic nervous system is your gas pedal. It's your fight or flight system. That cortisol activates. It gets you ready for action, but it has a beautiful, calming counterpart, the parasympathetic nervous system. This is your brake pedal. It is your rest and digest and tend and befriend system. It slows your heart rate, lowers your blood pressure, improves digestion, and promotes a state of calm, healing, and repair. The main superhighway of this system is a massive nerve called the vagus nerve, which wanders from the brainstem down, through the chest and into the abdomen, connecting to nearly all of our major organs. For years, we thought this entire autonomic system was beyond our conscious control. But one of the most profound discoveries in modern neuroscience is that this is not true. We can learn to consciously and manually activate our parasympathetic brake pedal. The simple, powerful techniques we are about to learn are the scientifically proven ways to do exactly that, primarily by learning how to speak to the vagus nerve. You can learn to be the driver, not the passenger, of your own nervous system. So we've established that for many of us, our sympathetic gas pedal is stuck on, flooding our system with the corrosive effects of chronic cortisol. How then do we manually press the brake pedal and activate our calming rest and digest system on demand? The answer, as we discussed, is that we need to learn to speak to our ancient nervous system in a language it understands. And that language is the language of the body, the language of breath, of sensory awareness, and of our environment. I'm going to teach you 3 simple, yet profoundly effective, evidence-based techniques to add to your toolkit for life. Tool #1. The 5-minute mindfulness meditation. The mental declutter. Our first tool is mindfulness meditation. The word meditation can be intimidating for some. It might conjure images of sitting in a pretzel-like position for hours on end, trying to empty your mind. Let's dispel that myth right now. Mindfulness is simply the practice of paying attention to the present moment, on purpose, without judgment. That's it. And you don't have to stop your thoughts. That's impossible. The goal is simply to change your relationship to your thoughts, to learn to observe them as they arise and pass, like clouds in the sky, without getting swept away by them. From a neuroscience perspective, a consistent mindfulness practice works wonders. It strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the thoughtful, rational CEO of your brain, giving it more control over the reactive, emotional alarm bell of the amygdala. In fact, studies using fMRI have shown that a regular practice can actually shrink the gray matter density of the amygdala. You are literally remodeling your brain for more calm and less reactivity. So I'd like to guide you through a very simple 5-minute practice right now. There's no special way to sit, no secret mantra. Just find a comfortable, upright position in your chair, with your feet flat on the floor. You can gently close your eyes, or just lower your gaze toward the floor. Host leads a slow, gentle 5-minute guided meditation. The script would be something like this. Let's begin by just bringing your awareness to the fact that you are breathing. You don't have to change your breath in any way. Just notice the sensation of the air entering your nostrils and the sensation of the air leaving. Notice the gentle rise of your belly on the in-breath and the gentle fall on the out-breath. Your mind will wander. That's what minds do. It will drift to a thought about tomorrow or a memory from yesterday. When you notice your mind has wandered, gently and without any judgment, just acknowledge the thought and then kindly guide your attention back to the sensation of your breath in and out. Now, let's briefly scan the body, noticing any areas of tightness or tension, perhaps in your jaw or your shoulders. Just notice these sensations without needing to change them, simply breathing into them. And now, for the last minute, just rest in this state of awareness, aware of your breath, aware of your body, aware of the sounds around you, just being here in this moment. When you're ready, you can slowly begin to wiggle your fingers and toes and gently open your eyes. That's it. That is the practice. Just 5 minutes a day can begin to rewire your brain for peace. Tool number 2, box breathing, the instant calmer. Our second tool is your emergency brake. This is a technique you can use in the moment. When you feel that wave of stress or anxiety rising, your breath is the remote control for your nervous system. By deliberately slowing down your breath, especially your exhale, you are directly stimulating that massive vagus nerve, the main superhighway of your parasympathetic rest and digest system. It sends an immediate, powerful signal to your brainstem to slow your heart rate and switch off the fight or flight response. This specific technique, called box breathing, is used by everyone from Navy SEALs in combat situations to surgeons before a delicate operation to calm their nerves and steady their hands. Susan now uses this exact technique for a minute before she has a difficult phone call or checks her email. She's feeling anxious. It's her instant reset button. It's called box breathing because it has 4 equal sides. It's simple to remember. We'll inhale for a count of 4, gently hold our breath at the top for a count of 4, slowly and fully exhale for a count of 4, and gently hold at the bottom for a count of 4. That's 1 box. Let's do 3 rounds together now. Host leads 3 rounds of box breathing slowly and clearly. Okay, let's begin. Gently exhale all the air from your lungs. Now, inhale through your nose. 2, 3, 4. Gently hold. 2, 3, 4. Slowly exhale through your mouth. 2, 3, 4. Gently hold. 2, 3, 4. That's 1 round. Let's do another inhale. Just a few rounds of this can make a profound difference in your physiological state in under 2 minutes. Tool number 3, nature therapy, the primal reset. Our final tool is perhaps the most ancient, intuitive, and enjoyable of all. It's nature therapy. Our brains and bodies evolved over millions of years to be in and around nature. The modern indoor, urban environment is deeply foreign to our ancient biology. Modern science is now proving what we've intuitively known for centuries. Spending time in a natural environment has a profound, measurable, positive effect on our physiology. This concept of our innate need to connect with nature is called biophilia, a term popularized by the Harvard biologist E.O. Wilson. Studies from around the world have shown that just 20 minutes in a park or a wooded area can significantly lower cortisol levels, reduce blood pressure, slow the heart rate, and decrease rumination, the tendency to get stuck in negative thought loops. In Japan, this practice is called Shinrin-yoku or forest bathing, and it is prescribed by doctors as a standard part of preventative healthcare. So, as your doctor today, I am now literally writing you a nature prescription. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to get 20 minutes of dedicated, device-free nature time at least 3 days a week. This doesn't mean walking through a park while talking on your phone or listening to a stressful news podcast. It means being present. Leave the phone in your pocket. Use your senses. Listen to the birdsong. Feel the breeze on your skin. Notice the different shades of green in the leaves. Smell the scent of the damp earth after it rains. Richard took this prescription to heart. He used to walk on a treadmill at the gym, watching the political news on a screen. Now, he takes his 30-minute walk at a local park with a walking trail. He told me he comes home feeling not just physically exercised, but mentally and spiritually restored. He swapped the cortisol spiking environment of the 24-hour news cycle for the cortisol-lowering environment of the natural world. Science of stress and the cultivation of calm comes to a close. We began by acknowledging the quiet hum of anxiety that defines so much of modern life, a feeling we've been taught to accept as normal. We journeyed back in time 50,000 years and discovered that the stress response itself is not the enemy. It is a brilliant, life-saving tool designed to protect us from acute, physical threats. We then faced the hard truth that our ancient alarm system is being chronically triggered by modern psychological worries, leading to a slow, corrosive poisoning by our own stress hormones. But we did not stop there. In a place of fear, we discovered the most hopeful truth of all, that we have a brake pedal, our parasympathetic nervous system, and we assembled a powerful, practical stress reduction toolkit. We learned the brain remodeling power of mindfulness meditation. We practiced the emergency brake of box breathing, and we reconnected with our primal, biological need for nature therapy. You now have the why behind your stress and the how to begin to heal it. Let's imagine Susan a few weeks from now. When she feels that familiar tightness in her shoulders while reading the morning news, she doesn't just let it consume her and ruin her morning. She has a new awareness. She notices the sensation, and she recognizes it for what it is, a signal from her sympathetic nervous system. She pauses, she closes her eyes, and right there at the kitchen table, she does 3 rounds of box breathing. She has a tool. She feels her heart rate slow, her shoulders soften. She has consciously pressed her own brake pedal. She now makes it a non-negotiable ritual to take her morning coffee out into her small garden instead of drinking it while scrolling through her phone, getting her daily dose of both morning sunlight for her sleep and nature therapy for her stress. She hasn't eliminated the sources of stress in the world, but she has built up her own internal resilience to them. She has learned that while she cannot always control the storms outside, she has a profound and growing ability to cultivate a calm harbor within. This leads us to the most profound and empowering truth of this entire pillar of longevity: managing stress is not about creating a life with no problems. It is about cultivating a calm, resilient inner state so that you can navigate life's inevitable storms with more grace, more wisdom, and less physiological wear and tear. I want you to think of your nervous system not as a machine that is broken, but as an inner garden. For years, perhaps, the weeds of chronic stress, worrying, anxiety, rumination have been allowed to grow unchecked, choking out the beautiful plants of peace and joy. The tools we learned today, meditation, breathwork, and time in nature, are your gardening tools. Mindfulness meditation is the patient, gentle practice of noticing and pulling the weeds, one by one, without anger or frustration. Strategic breathwork is like a deep, nourishing watering for the soil of your nervous system, and time in nature is like giving your garden the essential sunlight it needs to thrive. You are the gardener of your own nervous system, and from a physician's standpoint, it is the most important gardening you will ever do. This practice begins with one small, intentional act of calm, so I invite you to make a gentle commitment to yourself. What is one small thing you will do this week to consciously press your brake pedal and cultivate your inner garden? Will you try the 5-minute meditation each morning, or take one 20-minute, phone-free walk in a local park? Perhaps you'll simply practice 1 round of box breathing the next time you feel stressed. Share your simple, powerful intention in the comments below. Your commitment may just be the quiet inspiration that someone else in our community needs to pick up their own gardening tools. If this guide has given you the hope and the tools to build your pillar of stress resilience, please give this video a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to Senior Health Lab. We have one final, beautiful, and perhaps most important pillar to build together. Thank you for having this important conversation with me today. I wish you a day filled with moments of intentional calm. Until next time, stay curious, stay healthy.